y'all. Welcome to 2024. You have suffered through another year of rolling dice and taking names. And on this first episode of 2024, the guys will review Prime Minister, Sankoré, and Ghost of Christmas. As a New Year's resolution, let's see if we can make it through another year together.
Hello, and welcome to Rolling Dice and Taking Names in the first episode of 2024, 311. Wow, that makes it sound like it's like the name of the episode, or it's numbered 311. The title of the episode is Let's Start the New Year Right, which we're obviously not. My name is Marty.
I'm Tony. Yeah, the enthusiasm's not there. I'm sorry. It's just
I'm enthused.
You're enthused? I tell you what, it was a struggle. It was a struggle over the holidays. Too much going on, even with the break. I'm like, people get out my house.
He had a lot of family over, eh?
Yeah, I had a lot of family over. Now I got to get the decorations down. You know, it's that ebb and flow of the holidays. You know, you got the hype, the build, and all that's going on. And then you're like, okay, I'm done. It's kind of like, go ahead and Whamageddon me. I'm out of this. And now we got to tear it all down and go for the next 300 plus days till we start the ebb and flow again.
Speaking of Whamageddon,
yes,
this is the first year I have not made it through, and I was knocked out on Christmas Eve.
How?
I was sitting outside with my dad and sons. We're having a nice cigar, and there was a neighbor down the street having a little kids party, and they decided to put on some music, and I could barely hear it. And it was like, what is that? And I was stupid enough to pay attention, and it was like, holy crap. It's last Christmas. And boom, I was out.
You're gone.
If I would just ignored it and just like not even try to figure out what it was, but nope.
Well, mine was, as we saw over on our Discord channel, mine was fairly straightforward. We went to the Christmas town here in Charlotte, North Carolina area called McAdenville, walked, saw the lights. No Last Christmas. None of that was playing there. Even though there was Christmas music all over, never had a chance to get knocked out there. And I was like, oh, well, scot-free. Let's go get something to eat. Hey, there's this nice little Mexican restaurant right down the street. Let's go do that. Walk in, third song played. I'm like, what in the world is this? Oh, my heavens. I did not expect that to happen to me.
So what we're going to do next year in our Discord channels, we're going to do reverse Whamageddon, where you actually earn points by hearing it. So no more trying to dodge events and stores and stuff. It's one of those things, if you just happen to hear it, you'll record points. And the person with the most points at the end of December will win.
Okay, we can do that. I also like the one about the zombie side one where once you get knocked out, you make it a ringtone on your phone.
Oh, that's just mean.
I know it is. But I'm sitting there thinking, okay, but nobody ever calls me. So it's not like it would ever ring.
Right.
So that's the slim chance that I would take anybody out by having that ringtone. Yep, it's over. So let's start the new year right.
Before we get into the new year, did you get anything cool for Christmas or play anything fun over Christmas?
Let's see. What did we do? Did I get anything? No, I'm at the age now where Santa doesn't come visit me. He's like, you got everything you need. I'm like, you're absolutely right, Santa. Go to someone else's house who needs it more. Then from the standpoint as to what did we play, I did get Charioteer on the table from GMT Games.
How did it go over?
It went over very well. I felt like it was not my son-in-law's game. I think he was kind of bored with it.
Oh.
Because there wasn't, it was just playing cards. It really was matching. He's like, where's the strategy in this? I understand your point, because it's really about how do you stack up your cards to maybe take the lead. Because I was in the lead the whole time and then got left in the dust because my card suddenly turned on me. Okay. Mm-hmm. We only did 2 laps. That was as far as we go. And the fan favorite, when you match 6 symbols, you can pull out the fan favorite.
Yes.
We didn't use that in lap 1 because I wanted him to get the flow. Now my mother-in-law, who's close to, 70 years old, she was playing. It took her a little while to get the process and understand, but she even understood the game. So that should tell you what this game can bring to the table for everyone. It's not a hard game. And I told him, I said, this game surprises me by GMT.
Because of its theme, simplicity, or what?
Simplicity. You're used to the GM. I looked at him, I said, this is the game where you and I played Hitler's Reich. You and I and he and I played it one time. And I'm like, this is one of their games, and you wouldn't expect that from them. What about you? Did you get one? I got another one on, but I'll kick it over to you.
I wish we could have played Charioteer. I still want to play that again. In fact, our game group wants to play it again, so we still need to get back on the table. But moving on. So the only thing that I played was I took a game to my parents on Christmas because everybody expects me to bring a little game. So I took a game we've already talked about, Ensemble, which is from Aries Games. Plays up to eight or nine players. I can't remember how many it is, but it's the game where it's kind of like a co-op Dixit. There's a couple picture cards out on the table, and then there's a third card that's put out, and you're trying to decide, okay, which one of the two cards here most matches the third card, and everybody secretly picks card 1 or 2 from a hand of cards, and they flip them over. If everybody picks the same one, we advance to the next level. The next level just adds another card. If you fail, you lose a life. If you lose all your life, the game's over. But your goal is to get to the end of the game, which is you're going to have 9 cards out on the table, and you have to pick one of the 9 cards that matches the clue card.
Okay.
And if you do, you actually win the game. Our first game, we got annihilated, but our second game, we actually made it all the way through and did all 9 cards. So it was cool. I enjoy the game. It's a good big group game.
Okay, 8 people. That sounds like it. I mean, from the standpoint, you need something like that to keep everybody involved.
Yes, and the teach is literally you just put it out and play. Like, here, I'm going to give everybody cards. There's 2 cards on the table. Which one of these 2 cards matches the other one? And then we do that, and I tell them the consequences. Hey, we all matched. Something happens. Hey, we didn't match. Here's what happens. And people pick it up instantly.
We got Santa's Workshop on the table, the standard side or the normal side of the board, not the advanced rules board. Played that, and it was definitely easier to play. Not as much resource management, but once again, 70-plus-year-old mother-in-law, she understood the game, understood what was going on, and it was the challenge in this one, of course, is as people fill up the various workshop areas, you're giving them victory points, but you're getting more resources. So it's kind of a weight game. And at 5 players, this was great because there were only 4 slots in the various workshops, and you're sitting there waiting for somebody to go to a specific workshop so that you can say, hey, I really need 3 metal this turn. I need someone to go ahead and place theirs here. Would someone please hurry up and place their elf in that workshop? You know, I'll give you a victory point. I just need that extra metal. So that's what the other side of the board brought. You don't have your own little Christmas tree. You're just randomly grabbing ornaments, and it's a lot shorter game. You're only playing 2 rounds before the Christmas Eve comes.
Yep.
Everybody enjoyed that. They wanted to try, if they get a chance, maybe try the advanced side of it later to see how that plays out. But still solid, very simplistic, which is great. Worker placement game, intro worker placement game. Even Rebecca, my daughter, said, you know what, this is right up there with as far as Pillars of the Earth, as far as understanding. But she said there is no complexity to it. I said,
okay.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, there's definitely no complexity like Pillars of the Earth. She goes, yeah, but place a person. I go, well, what about having to pay in Pillars of the Earth and making that decision? She goes, oh yeah, that too. And I said, what about when you have to manage the people and give up certain? Oh yeah, that too. Never mind. I said, okay.
So is Santa's Workshop a keeper to bring out around the holidays each year?
I think so. I think it'll that ebb and flow, get the spirit going. Everybody say, oh, but once again, simple worker placement. We were done in under 40 minutes on the easy board with 5 people.
Wow.
Oh, and a real quick shout out to Willie Williams. He was my Secret Santa over there on our Discord channel, and we do that every year. And he sent us Mist over Carcassonne, I believe that's the correct name. Donna, we still haven't gotten it to the table just from scheduling, but she wants to really play that. However, he sent something else from Saratoga, New York. It's called a Peppermint Pig. It's from the Saratoga Candy Company, and they've been doing this for over 100 years. And basically, you get a peppermint pig. It's a big old pig that you put in the pouch, and you hit it with a hammer to break it, and it's a big old peppermint stick. That's really all it is. So we did that on Christmas Eve. We had some friends over to do fondue, put the pig in the pouch, and we were hitting it with the hammer, and it took a lot to break that pig up, but it was very good. Thanks, Willie. That was entertainment. That was a game in itself, I almost screwed up. I almost took the peppermint pig out of the plastic thing that was around it, and then I would have had peppermint shards flying everywhere, and that would have been a bad thing. That would not have been good.
So I wanted to give a shout out to Chris and Angel, who sent us a little gift. They sent us me and Vanessa, a flour sack towel that had a nutcracker on it. So there's this whole story. It was really cool. The towel has a story about how in the early 1900s, people would take used flour sacks and then cut them up and then bleach them and make them good towels for drying dishes and stuff like that. So that's where this was from. I think he said he got it from Rhode Island, and has a nice picture of a nutcracker on the front, which Vanessa is a huge fan of nutcrackers, and Vanessa just went gaga over it. She loved it. She thought the nutcracker was great. So she put it out, and she said, this would be great for drying dishes and stuff. So we was washing some dishes, and I went to pick it up. So you're saying I can use this? And she said, no, you can't use that. That's a decorative towel. You need to pick up something else. So I still didn't get to use it.
I'm so tired of sitting around stuff. I've got boxes now labeled Goodwill, and I'm carrying stuff. As I find it, I'm like, we haven't used it. It's in the Goodwill. But back to Chris and Angel, I want to give them a big shout out too. They sent a Light Bright to me, a little mini Light Bright.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, because, when we were talking about in our toy, the toy show, what is it?
The Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame. Yeah, Hall of Fame. I said I never had a Light Bright. I now have a Light Bright.
A working Light Bright?
A mini working Light Bright. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's got these little patterns to it. You got a little LED light in there. You put some AA batteries in it, and you put it, and you plug it in. You get this mini Light Bright.
Well, do you actually put the pegs in through a piece of paper?
Mm-hmm.
So they sent little scraps of paper to put in it?
Well, it's got little scraps of paper in it. So it was really cool.
Wow.
So played with that. And now once to me, that's a one and done. So I played with it for a while. And then my 27-year-old niece looked at it and said, Uncle Tony, can I borrow that? And I said, of course.
What? No, that's be something I sit there on the desk at work and play with.
I don't have a desk anymore, so that's useless to me. But yeah, so Chris, Angel, thank you so much. Hope y'all had a wonderful one. So let's get, once again, let's move past the holidays.
Okay. There are a couple big conventions that I know we're going to be at one, and hopefully we'll be at another one this year. The first one we're going to talk about is a new convention in Atlanta, Georgia called Dyson Diversions. Now, Dyson Diversions is ran by the same people that run the Southern Fried Gaming Expo, which happens every July in Atlanta, which I'm a huge fan of, and I go every year and been for many years. We typically are guests there. Well, they reached out and said, hey, we would like you guys to be guests at our inaugural Dyson Diversions convention, which is basically a tabletop only convention. So no video games, no arcade games. It is strictly board games, role-playing games, miniature games, card games, etc. And this is going to be in Hilton, Atlanta Northeast, which is a little outside of Atlanta, which I am a fan of because it's a little bit easier to get to there than where they typically have the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. And this event is going to be from January 12th through January 15th. So it's going to start on a Thursday, go through a Sunday. I do have a room at the Hilton Atlanta Northeast. I'm hoping to be able to go. I'm hoping, Tony, that you are checking your calendar, see if you can go. And if we can, what we're going to do is we're going to set up maybe an event, maybe a learn to play or play with or something like that. At the convention, they already have schedules out for a lot of other events they're doing. They do play to wins, et cetera, like that. So they run an amazing event at Southern Fried Gaming Expo. So I can't wait to see how they're going to do a tabletop-focused only convention.
That'll be interesting. I hope I can make it too. I'm checking the calendar. I know I'm got some challenges coming up on the 11th. So we'll see what we can do about that from the standpoint of making it down there. And also we have another one following up from that 2 weeks later. And that is in our own hometown. Makes it easy for me. Tantrum Con. Yay! They are back in Uptown Charlotte. Not out at near the airport. So they're going to be able to really leverage the city, leverage the food that's in Uptown, tons of restaurants, tons of stuff to do at night. There's even a duck pin bowling area lane near them. I hope it stays open from that time so we can maybe get a group to go duck pin bowling. I doubt it.
I'd rather go axe throwing.
You're just asking to lose something. That's all there is to it.
Why? That's more. I'd rather go real bowling than duck pin bowling.
Have you ever been duck pin bowling?
No, it's just miniature bowling.
It's a lot harder for I mean, if you don't want to be challenged. But yes, Tantrum Con's coming. We'll have our special event, of course, Strike and the Moon Pie Eating Contest.
Yeah, well, for those who don't know what that is, each year we have a special event where we have a moon pie eating contest. But to be able to participate in the moon pie eating contest, we have a strike tournament. Now, we do this at Gen Con, where we run a strike tournament. That's where we name our champion of the year, the name of the year, Dice in a Bowl, Gladiators in the Arena, etc. But here, what's going to happen is select winners of strike will compete in a mini moon pie eating contest, and whoever can eat the most amount of moon pies in a certain amount of time will win some prizes that will be given by us and some publishers that will be at the event.
There's some, special guests showing up. Daryl Andrews, board game designer Danielle Reynolds, board game designer Scott Brady, board game designer Grant Lyon, board game comedian, when all these people. And please do not let this discourage you from showing up. Even Stephen Bonacore is coming. Oh, man. Oh, it was a class act, but now.
In fact, I guess I'll have to reach out to him and say, hey, block Saturday night at 7 p.m. That's when our event's going to be, Saturday night, 7 p.m. And it's going to be free to attend, I believe. I believe it's free to attend. It's only going to be like an hour or so long, so it'd be fun to hang out. We have fun doing this every year. The event is going to be January 25th to January 28th, Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm not sure if there's any rooms left, Tony. I think a lot of the rooms may be gone at the host hotel, La Meridian Charlotte, which is right within kind of the beltway of downtown Charlotte. So there will be a lot to do. Hopefully the weather will be nice and you can get out and maybe walk around and see some things.
Oh, yep, you're right. It's out. The hotel is booked solid, but there are plenty of nice hotels in downtown Charlotte, easy within walking distance of that area. And if you have any questions, by all, jump over on our Discord channel. Marty and I'll be happy to answer, or the Tantrum House Discord channel. They've got plenty people that can answer your questions, but Marty and I can be happy to help you out. Man, where this is located, it's just outside the Beltway. There's some hotels, some really nice areas over there. Shoot. What's an Uber to people if you want to stay in the uptown area and stay near where the Panthers ball field or anything like that? Hopefully, the Panthers are out. There's no chance any ball games are being played at Panther Stadium. Yeah.
No way. We do have the basketball arena. I mean, maybe check out a basketball game. I'm not sure if the Hornets are in town at that time. They're not too far away from there, but you can easily Uber everywhere, and a lot of amazing restaurants in downtown area now. A lot of great bars. If you're into the bar life, you're not too far from a place called South End, which has a lot of nice bars, etc.
That's right. So be sure, if you got time on your calendar, check it out into January for our Tantrum Con in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And Dyson Diversions in the middle of January in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, one more thing before we get on to some games we want to talk about. Tony, you and I like to play Codenames Live with our good buddy Tim, who runs a weekly event where he has guests on to play against each other. It's basically teams of two playing Codenames against each other. And we were in this recent season's finale of the show and actually got to play against some very famous people.
Yes, we did. I got to geek out with Kevin Sussman. Most of you know him from being Stuart on Big Bang Theory.
And he brought somebody to play along, which was Liam McIntyre, he was from the Spartacus show. He's done a lot of voice work in video games. He was in a very recent holiday movie on Great American Family Channel, which he was promoting at the time that we did the show. And due to a video game studio, Insomniac, being hacked, Insomniac's the studio that does Spider-Man video games. It was hacked and released that Liam is going to be voicing Wolverine in their upcoming game from Insomniac, which is going to be a huge title coming up.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So if you like the Spider-Man series, imagine I bet it's going to be more R-rated type series with Wolverine as the main playable character, voiced by our now friend Liam, who is really into board games, as in the process of designing a board game, and we'd love to have him on the show in the future.
Yeah, hopefully he can find time for us. He can always kick Joe Marianello off. Our good buddy from Joe's never gotten back to us, has he?
I know. No. we rubbed shoulders. Okay, we didn't rub shoulders. My shoulders rubbed his chest one time because guy is super tall. But that one time, that was pretty much about it. So anyway, that was a lot of fun hanging out with Tim. Make sure to check out his channel, Codenames Live, over on Twitch. He does weekly shows there. He said, hey, you guys want to come back next season? Of course we do. It's always a great time. He runs a great event, and we always love supporting the guy.
So let's get over to some games, shall we? Because we got a lot to cover.
Whew, it's going to be a long one, y'all.
Hopefully you made a stop over at shopportalgames.com and got to see the little Santa hat on top of the logo. That's so cute. I mean, they're decorating their web page, making it all special for the holiday season. But they also release new free scenarios. For instance, over there, Imperial Miners Christmas Gift, you have a new scenario that you can download and play for free if you happen to get if you want to do the solo scenario. But you're like, but Tony, I don't have Imperial Miners. And then I'll say, well, what is your problem? Because over at Shop Portal Games, you can definitely pick it up. I mean, Imperial Miners for $39, and you still get the bonus card that comes with it. Detective, a modern crime board game. I already talked about all of his family. You're looking around saying, man, what are we going to do? We're having that sugar crash right now. We need to engage everybody here at the house. Make them be energetic, or at least talk. Any of the detective series, the Batman series. We know Ignacio's out there. He's working hard on that, kind of keep that going. Then, of course, my favorite, nothing says the holidays like despair, crushing defeat like Robinson Crusoe. Break that game out if you didn't get a chance over the holidays to, bring everybody's soul to the bottom. Robinson can do that for you, but you'll never get off the island. Amazing prices over at shopportalgames.com. Can't wait to see what Ignacio's got planned for 2024, and continues as he drops those little special solos for his various games that you can download for free.
If you've been listening to this show for a while, then you know that I've kind of gotten into some GMT games, especially on the P500s of pre-ordering games I was interested in. And every once in a while, one shows up that I wasn't expecting, or I may hear about one that I didn't even know about, which is the case with the game we're getting ready to play, Prime Minister. So I didn't know much about this game, Tony, but people started getting it from GMT and was talking about the experiences they had of it being very much a player interactive game, a very social game. It's not a Euro game. It's not Ameritrash. It's kind of its own thing. So I was very intrigued, and GMT still had the P500 price up on their site. So I grabbed a copy, and then about a month before we played, I started, all right, guys, let's find a Saturday or Sunday. Let's get together and let's try this game out.
You slightly have gotten into? Dude, you are at the precipice of the edge of the Grand Canyon, not at the lower, but the upper rim, and you have taken the step off. You have taken that plunge into the abyss. And you are all into these GMT. And unfortunately, as always, you are in my wallet. So now I am doing these GMT games, but I've always liked the theme. But when you pitch this one, I'm just like, all right, so I'm not having to deal with a whole bunch of little chits on the board. I'm not having to calculate big maps. There's no fog of war or anything like that. So it's easy to track. I'm not having to do a whole bunch of tracking over to this side. When I was looking at it, I was like, this does look like an interesting game. And I also liked what it was themed on, early England government. And I'm like, yeah, I want to play this. I want to give this a try. And especially, the time frame, I always have that 2-hour rule, but I was going to allow this one. I was going to go for it and see how it played out. And we did. We got to play it, and it was an experience.
It plays 1 to 4 players. GMT says 2 to 3 hours. In our first game, we probably played between 3 and 3.5 hours. But the first part of the game was a lot of rule reading to make sure we had everything right. But once we got into the groove, I can totally see, even with 4 players, if you know what you're doing, this is a 2 to 3 hour game.
Yeah, easily. First off, it's not a lot of going back and referencing the rules if you get it on the table a lot of times. I mean, it is straightforward. Everything is right there in front of you, which makes it even easier. Now, you may have to reference some clarifications when some nuances come up, like during the election phase, and we'll talk about all this, or, when something happens and it's like, oh, now how do we handle this? Because I would hate for a 60 plus page rule book not to be used at some point during the game.
Now, to be fair, that is scary,
Yeah, okay.
but only 23 or 24 pages are the actual rules themselves.
Double column.
It is double column. It is double column.
GMT font.
That is fair. But the rest of the rule book is made up of scenarios and example of gameplay. So they're very thorough in their rules and how this works. And just let me give you the boilerplate description of this game. In Prime Minister, 1 to 4 players vie for political power and prestige by campaigning for public support, selecting and debating bills, pursuing official appointments, recruiting influential Victorians as supporters, garnering favor with the Queen, and, when the time is right, challenging others to their leadership roles. Gameplay is partly cooperative with shifting alliances, but only one player can win by holding the Prime Minister's seat at the game's end. So that first sentence sounds, oh my gosh, boring, boring, voting on bills. But when it got to the whole thing of it's semi-cooperative, shifting alliances and stuff, that's where it kind of intrigued me.
Mm-hmm. And there's really they say debate of bills. There's not really any debate because you're working with your fellow constituents to try to see how to best gain victory points and pass certain bills and how can it best help your party. Like, hey, Marty, we're the opposition. What are you thinking about? How do you think we should go about playing this? And it's not a big physical debate. It's not like I'm standing in front of the lectern.
Oh,
and then,
no.
Yeah, and I just want people when they read that to not realize that you've got a lot of this back and forth before that kicks in. There's not that much to the big debate. It's pick a few cards, The
debate cards that are chosen as bills to be passed by the Prime Minister were actual bills, which is really interesting to read. We got a kick out of some of these that were being discussed and everything. But the subject of the bill makes no difference whatsoever. It's basically, if the government passes their bills, whoever is in power is going to get victory points. The opposition may want to try to make sure those bills fail. And it's all a mathematical thing. But when setting the game up, everybody is dealt a politician card, a random politician card. And we play with 4 players. And how this needs to be set up is there's going to be 2 for the Liberal Party and 2 for the Conservative Party. The Liberal Party starts in power. So they start as the government is what it's referenced to in the rule book. So in that party, one person is assigned a prime minister based on the card. It's like an initiative on the card determines who sets up as prime minister. And in the other party, there's an opposition leader. And the other 2 people are called backbenchers. They're the ones kind of supporting the party, but they don't have as many actions as they can do on their turn. Everything is kind of driven through the leaders of the party, the prime minister and the opposition leader.
But as the backbenchers or the supporting cast, you are trying to ride the coattails of the leaders to help you position yourself for later in the game. That is what you're doing as a backbencher. So don't think you're just going to sit there and really do nothing. No. You're going to be scheming in the back halls. And you're going to have your sidebar meetings going on while you're doing this, trying to figure out how to best one another. And it's one of these games, as Marty was talking about this, the bills. You're like, oh, you're just going to put a card in. Actually, this was one of my biggest positives about this game. Actual bills from that time period. I really enjoy it. People from that time period. It puts you in that mode of what they were having to deal with. I mean, for example, I do not want kids being chimney sweeps anymore.
By the way, we passed that bill. We did pass that. That's the one we did. I don't think we passed the one where kids couldn't work in mines anymore, though. That one may have failed.
No, that one failed because it was not beneficial to our party. In other words, it did not allow us to gain victory points, and it allowed us to get the poor prime minister out of office. And we were joking about that, But it's one of those things where it's kind of like, that's the debate that you're having as to why do we want to pass. But we had fun. We would interject some things. Oh, man, yeah, well, the kids won't get stuck like the adults with their chimney sweep. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't want them to have soot all that going home. And, we had fun from that standpoint. But that is fun. And there's not tons of flavor text. For those who's listening to the show, no, I do not do a ton of flavor text. They brought some of that theme to the game that, at first for a portion of the game, it'd be like, here's some cards, figure out how to deal with them.
Right. And at the very beginning of the game, if there are no bills on the board, that's the first thing the prime minister gets to do. The prime minister does a lot in this. The first thing that they're going to do is choose 3 bills. Each person sitting at the table that's not the prime minister draws 2 bills, and there's 2 different bills always active. There's the cross-party bills, which are bills that both sides are most likely to agree on. And then there is whoever is in power. So at the start of the game, the liberals are in power, so it's liberal bills. As the opposition, when we started the game, Tony, you and I were opposition. Our only option, we only wanted to take the cross-party bills because that's the only things we knew that we were going to be interested in and possibly getting victory points for. So we would take 2 cross-party bills each. And at the start of the game, I think the backbencher for the government also picked cross-party bills. We each pick 1, give them to the prime minister. He draws 3, and from that 6, he puts 3 into play that's going to be voted on over the next 3 rounds, because each round, you're going to vote on one of those bills.
In the early game, and Marty, the pact, we're all, as we gain victory points, we're all moving this track up. And I don't think you mentioned that we play to 100 victory points, right? How do you win the game? You play to 100 victory points, and whoever is prime minister, when your cube hits 100, then that person is the winner. So during the game, there's only one cube tracking victory points until there's a split. And then there can be another split. And that's where the game gets really interesting.
Right.
You're sitting there trying to say, okay, to my point, how do you ride the coattails to help drive things up? That's the flow of the first, hour of the game, in my opinion, of how you're sitting there trying to make this government work to everybody's benefit, but eventually so that I can win.
Everybody, like you said, at the very beginning of the game, there's a thing called a pact card. We're all working together, and we're trying to get bills across. And whenever bills cross, because we're in that pact, everybody at the table is getting victory points, and we're all represented by this one particular cube, which happens to be the player color of the prime minister. Like you said, at some point in time, the opposition leader, when it's their turn, they can just say, you know what? That's it. The pact is now dissolved. When that happens, the cube of the opposition leader, the color of their cube, is put on the victory point marker where the current prime minister is. At that point, the government party, whoever's in charge, and the opposition party, their victory points are tracked differently. So at this point is typically when the government passes the bills, who's ever in charge, the government gets the victory points. But if the opposition party can stop them from passing, the opposition party gets victory points. So that's where you start splitting apart from victory points between the 2 different parties. And that turn is very important when it happens in the game. Because early on, we've got these 3 bills out there, and at the beginning of the turn, depending on what you are, you're going to get action cubes that you can spend during your turn to take certain actions. The 2 leaders of the party, prime minister and opposition leader, are going to get more cubes they can do things with. The backbenchers get less cubes, but over the course of the game, they can open up these roles. They can try to achieve these certain roles, which gives them potentially additional actions they can do with those cubes. So you start out as a backbencher, Tony. You were very limited what you could do on your turn.
Yeah, I only had 1 cube. I mean, and it depends. As a backbencher, I could probably, if I wanted to, I could debate, which, helps pass a bill or hurts a bill, whatever I wanted to do. And it was like, or I could go get a supporter, which is basically drawing a card that gives you special abilities.
Hobnob.
Hobnob.
That was the action of that one. Hobnobbing's when you draw a supporter card. Yep.
So another thing I enjoyed about the game is that my politician, he has 4 traits. And those traits, they have to match up to the traits on the card. If they don't match, I can't do that particular trait. So for instance, I did not have the ability to campaign as my politician. He could not do that. Even though I had the capability, a card to do that as a backbencher, I could not do that. And I really like this about the game because this brings a ton of replayability into this game, a whole lot of dynamics that are going to happen depending on which politicians are in play because certain actions are going to be limited. So I like that. And you have to build on the strengths of the politician that you have.
Yep.
Okay. I'm done talking about what I like. Continue with your diatribe on rules.
So what I was going to say is as far as player turns, I mean, one thing I like about this is player actions are super, super simple. For example, Tony, you were the only one at the table that had a politician that could flatter. And you could just say, on my turn, I'm going to spend a cube and flatter, which means move your cube up on favor with the queen. Why would you want to do that? Because during the course of the game, there are some cards that may come into play that may say, hey, whoever has favor with the queen right now gets something, possibly even control of the government, depending on a card that comes up during the election phase. Favor with the queen also breaks ties, which, Tony, actually helped you win the game, which we'll talk about at the end, because you were the only one that could garner that favor unless you happen to draw maybe a supporter card that could get you favor. But other than that, none of else could do it. So that's a very simple action. Debate's really straightforward. When a bill goes into play, you automatically determine how many votes does it have. If it's one of those where, hey, all of the current government party supports it, there's a nice little table on the board that tells you the makeup of the government, the number of seats that the government controls, how many of those are moderates, how many are partisans. If everybody's going to vote for it, you just look at the total number at the beginning of the game, it's 330. This bill supported by everybody starts at a marker with 330 on it. When you debate, you move that marker up or down by typically 10 points. There are some that are a little bit more powerful. But you can, hey, I want to make sure it passes. I'm going to move it up and give additional support up to 340. Or no, I don't want it to pass. I'm going to drive it from 330 down to 320. And you need 330 votes to even pass. So the debate, straightforward. Flattery, straightforward. Hobnob, draw card. Piece of cake. Campaign. Eventually there's going to be an election. What you want to do is get the most popularity that you can for your party to try to win election. There is a portion of the board that has these different sectors like Scotland, gentry, farmers, etc. You can campaign in certain areas based on the politician that you have. You just simply take your cube that marks your party and move it up. And over on the popularity board, you track the difference between you and the other party, and whoever's in the lead is tracked on the board to show, okay, they're up by 10, up by 20, etc., which will help in the election. So that's pretty much the entire action selection that you have. It's that easy. And player turns are really fast if you know what you're going to do.
Very important as to who gets to do in what progression. The backbencher to the prime minister goes, then like the opposition leader, then the opposition backbencher, and then the prime minister goes, which was another thing I liked. The prime minister could sit there and really get strategy based on what people were doing. It also could hurt or limit what he needed to do. So you could do actions that would hurt the prime minister because you knew he needed to debate. And Marty, there was a card I called, in my typical Tony way, I would call it a pork barrel, or what is it when you stick an amendment on a bill and you just base pork barreling? Is that it?
Pork belly. I like pork bellies. You're talking about the debate cards?
Yeah, there was where you could stick onto the bill.
It was a special debate card that could help influence a debate, but if it passed, you got some extra bonuses, and if it failed, you took a penalty.
Mm-hmm. And you had to spend more influence, or more. You had to spend your 2 action cubes to do that. But that gave you a lot of benefit, and I liked how that was. Oh, and you could use it, and if that bill were then voted on, you would pull that card back. But if it wasn't, if the prime minister said, no, we're not going to vote on this bill, we're going to vote on that one, then you were stuck. You couldn't use that card until they went to it later.
And when it gets to the prime minister turn, before he takes the turn, what's a game without a randomness involved? And the randomness in this game is an event card. And when you're playing as the prime minister, which you and I got to play as prime minister. There's 3 of us that got to play as prime minister. That event card is a tough decision because you're going to look at it and it was like two of them were like railway disasters in like Ireland and Scotland. And it's like the prime ministers can say, I'm going to do nothing. And if they do nothing, it hurts their standing with the people, which could hurt eventual elections. Or he can spend cubes to possibly help, but if he spends cubes to negate that bad effect, he'll have less cubes to spend on his turn as an action. So those event cards were always really interesting for the PM to have to decide what to do with them.
Yes, those were awesome. Jack the Ripper was out.
That's right, the Jack the Ripper card. I forgot about, because I actually drew that one. Yep.
And you ignored it, and the workers, and this helps you make your decision. The working population, we were already tanked with them. So you said, I'm going to ignore that. What's it going to do? He's going to drive it down any... No, he can't. So that helps you make those decisions for those events. Okay, it's just a card. But yeah, it brought in that theme. Everything is tied together through the events that are going on during this time in England. Enjoyed the event card. That was fun. I enjoyed it all. Let's play it again.
Then after the PM takes his action, this is where he picks one of the available bills on the board and says, okay, we're going to vote on it. He looks at the current marker of the bill. If it's between 320 and 340, he's going to draw what's called an uncertainty card, because that's right in that range where it might pass or fail. You flip over the card and it has some modifier on it from 0 to minus 11, and then it goes up from there. So then you add that to the current vote. So let's say it's at 340 and it says minus 5. So it goes down to 335. 335 is still greater than 330. Congratulations, the bill passed. Any victory points are awarded at that point as need be, and then you move on from there. But Tony, what's interesting is when there's no bills on the board, we potentially could have an election at that point. And that's the part where we kind of had to really walk through it slowly the first time that we resolved it, because elections are extremely important, because that's when the parties can flip within Parliament.
But before we have an election, you can challenge your leaders.
Oh, I didn't mention that. That's yes. I'm sorry. Why don't you tell us about that?
So challenging. So after the bill, whatever bill passes or fails, then it could be up to the individuals in government. The backbenchers could challenge their leaders. They're not doing a good job. It's my turn to now be the leader. So if the prime minister backbencher wants to, and he has enough standing and meets the qualification, he can challenge and become prime minister if he wants.
Now, standing is just something that you're going to accumulate over the course of the game. Standing is good. Standing actually opens up additional action cubes for you to use. And standing can be increased by, like the debate cards that you mentioned earlier. It can drop. For example, if a bill fails, the prime minister's standing drops, which then gives a prime opportunity for the backbencher, for the government, to say, guess what? I'm now prime minister. But the same thing can happen with the opposition leader and the backbencher in that party too.
Right. And standing is automatic increase for the backbenchers. At the end of their action phase, it automatically goes up. There is a timer on the leaders because of the standing, knowing that they could very well be taken out of power at any time once the standing shifts. So, Marty's over there he was the opposition leader. And he's like, well, are you ever going to do anything? I'm like, why? I see positive here. My government is, I'm going to ride your coattails. I am going to enjoy this victory track point thing without creating any issues. And I'm going to let you falter on your own.
Which I did, which we'll talk about in a second. All right. So, and then after that, if there's no bills on the board, an election could happen. There is a way the prime minister can stall it one time. There is a token on the board that says if an election is going to occur, the prime minister says, I'm going to halt the election for at least 3 more bills. So he could delay it if he wants to. But if an election occurs, so all that campaigning that everybody's been doing over the rounds, you now go look over the popularity board. Whose ever markers on the board says they kind of have the lead at that point. There's going to be an uncertainty card that's drawn that's going to add to how many seats you lose or gain. And then whoever is in control at that point will then either keep the government or it's going to flip. And you're going, based determined on how many seats you got, that's going to reset a section of the board that says how many total seats the government controls, how many are partisans, and how many are moderates. And basically the partisans are super biased and the moderates are at least willing to work, across the aisle. Passing partisan bills we found out was tough, but we'll talk about that later on. So then this massive reset happens. So whoever let's say that the opposition wins the election. The opposition leader becomes the PM. The 2 backbenchers basically swap their positions. And now the opposition is considered the party in charge, now they're considered the government. They'll now get to pick their bills from their stack, and they control what bills show up on the table. And it's that tension of when is the government going to flip? When is a challenge going to happen for challenging the seat of the PM or the opposition leader that makes this really interesting, because everybody's kind of working together till a certain point that goes, no, it's probably beneficial for me to break apart at this point and challenge you, or even the government backpitcher can resign. That's how a government backpitcher can say, I don't support the PM anymore. I'm actually going to try to tank your bills. And usually they're going to do that because they want to take over and become the prime minister themselves.
Now, some things can bring the party back together, all in the rules.
Oh, yeah. Actually, after an election, the pact is reformed. Everybody, hey, we just had an election. Everybody's working great together again. And you do work together for a little bit. So any victory points are awarded to everybody until the opposition just says, nope, we're done. We're breaking the pact.
Or if the prime minister picks all bipartisan bills,
yes,
then that forms the pact. So that's another strategic thing for the prime minister. He has to think, maybe I want to help, inch the victory points along to try to get me closer to victory. So yeah, it's very interesting from the standpoint of those decisions to when do you break away? When do you dissolve the pact? How do you want to tank things? I mean, this is all part of the strategy that's going on in this game. Easy to track, easy to understand, but as Marty said.
Well, easy to track. Once we understood how to read the board, it was extremely easy to track. There was a little bit of a learning curve of understanding, okay, when I campaign, how does that affect the popularity? Because there's a differential between the two. After an election, how do we calculate how the parliament's made up then? Once it was under our belt, it made total sense. And there is, by the way, what's called an alternate voting bill card that you can put on the table or on the board that helps you mathematically determine where the bills stand. I wouldn't play without it. Otherwise, you kind of have to mental math the adds and minuses to the current bill. This will track each bill for you, so you can see exactly where you stand. And so, for example, if I was prime minister and a bill had 350 or more support, it's an automatic pass. So obviously I'm going to pick that one to make sure that it passes, because maybe with the other ones, the opposition party has been they've been debating a lot and driving down support, and there's no way I can get that to pass. The prime minister does have an option to say, I'm just going to withdraw the bill. We're not voting on it. What that does, it does give the opposition a couple of victory points, but it's not nearly as bad as losing a vote.
One thing, and this pops in, if I don't talk about it, I'll forget it, but the randomness. I mean, it's not that bad, but there is some, right? So you have to take that into, and it can ruin your day. You just have to be careful with that. But those are some things. But I'm sorry I said it wasn't that hard. For me, it was very easy. Y'all took care of it.
The randomness is really going to come up with, maybe you're looking for a particular type of bill that's an all bill and not a moderate bill. The uncertainty cards are in there. But what I like about the randomness when it comes to a bill, if you got 350 or more, randomness doesn't even come into play. It's an automatic pass. It's only if it's between 320 and 340. So whatever party's in charge can guarantee a pass if they want to spend their action cubes or their supporter cards, if it provides it, to debate up the number of people that they're going to support that bill.
Right.
I mean, like you said, then it's a race to 100. And I will say, let me just tell you how our game ended. Towards the end of the game, I was the prime minister. And there's certain spots later in the game where something's going to happen. Number one, when somebody hits the 85-point marker, prime ministers can no longer delay elections anymore. They can't delay it because you're kind of ending the game. And if he could do that, he could possibly go ahead and win without any challenges or anything. Also, the opposition, their points double on what they get when they do stuff. So there's a slight catch-up mechanic when the 90 point is passed with the prime minister. This kicks in like a little catch-up mechanic for the opposition, what I like. So here I am. I'm in the driver's seat. And there's a bill that I'm going to pass. It's like, oh, great. Well, I have 340 votes in that bill right now. I could spend a cube and guarantee it passes, but you know what? I'd rather use this cube to maybe get me a supporter card. I can't even remember what I did. I think I maybe went and campaigned. And I said, all right, awesome. It tells you the statistics. If you have 340 votes, you have a 5 out of 6 chance of passing. Marty happened to draw the 1 out of 6 card of the uncertainty deck. They gave him a minus 11 votes that dropped 340 down to 329, which means the bill failed, which dropped my standing. When we got to the challenge phase, person in my party, Tony, who was the government backbencher, said, you know what? I think I'm going to be prime minister now. You screwed up on that bill. I will be prime minister. You grabbed it and you held onto it the rest of the game and won the game. And it was very, very well played.
I backed into that one. I did like where you can, Resign. Yeah. Resign. And then you split from them. And so now you're opposite of your prime minister. You have resigned from them. And it's like, okay, now you're on your own from the standpoint of becoming your own party, trying to get your finish.
And but you're tracking your own victory points at that point. Mm-hmm. If you get victory points, the prime minister doesn't get them now.
Right. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, so I'm going to resign next turn anyway, because I had the standing, I had the favor. I knew this was going to work to my advantage. At least I thought it would in my mind. And it just so happens everybody's like, okay. And then we cleared the bills, and the draw of the deck allowed me to get two bipartisans and one of our party, which were going to be easy to pass because of how the debates were set up. And I'm like, okay, let's see if this works out. Because Bert thought he was going to take the prime minister. He was going to challenge me, but he couldn't because he didn't have enough favor.
Y'all matched in standing. The tiebreaker is favor. And like I said early on, Tony was the only one that had the flattery action.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where he could drive up favor with the queen. And Queen Victoria said, Tony, my man, we stand with Tony. I think she sounded like that too.
I know she did. And it may be a bit lower in pitch, but based on the movies I've seen. But yeah, but this brings up another point, that when you lose the prime minister, and this happened to Mark, happened to you, your standing drops. You are tanked.
Yeah. And the person who took the prime minister gets 6 victory points. It's a good way to jump up and get a lot of victory points, is to challenge and actually take that prime minister role.
Mm-hmm. And then that person assumes the standing as the prime minister of 11, which kept Bert from being able to secure it because, we were tied. So I had the favor. And then Mark drives my favor down. Too late. I got the victory points. So it held on to the very end. It wasn't, I don't see how this would be a runaway. I can see that maybe not early in the game, but in like the middle of the game, where there might be a lot more interaction, a lot more splitting. If you think you can do that, once again, based on the politicians that come out and their capabilities and how well they want to do that. Like mine had a debate power of 2, which let me drive up my stuff by 60 points if I used all my prime minister. 20 per each, yeah. So that's cool too.
Every politician had a level 2 ability, which made their action better for that. So, for example, there's one other action we could have done. Influence was another action where you can actually change people from moderate to partisan and partisan to moderate. That's the other. I didn't mention that action because that was my ability. I was better at doing it. I had a better job of being able to switch partisans and moderates. But anyway, so everybody has these level 2 abilities. Maybe instead of drawing 1 card when you hobnob, you draw 2, keep 1, that sort of deal.
Mm-hmm. I completely enjoyed the game. Very easy. Once we got through the 15, 20-minute teach, I did watch a few videos, and good thing you read the rule book 3 times. But once again, it's all right there. Easy. It was easy to follow. I really do think that.
The player aids were really nice. Once we understood the rules, the player aids worked perfectly. The player aids referenced the section in the rule book if you ever need to look it up. So GMT always does a good job with their player aids. What I love about this is I don't know what this is. It's not an Ameritrash game. It's not a Euro game. I don't know what you call it, which is why I was so intrigued about it and why I liked it so much.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because it's not a resource management game at all. There are no resources. No. It is so cleverly done. And it's one of those, I just wanted a different experience. I didn't want to just be collecting cubes and turning in cubes for victory points. I wanted something else. And Prime Minister gave me that, which I am so glad I bought it, and it will be staying on my shelf for sure.
Oh yeah. I'm so glad you bought it too. It was definitely not the GMT game I originally thought when they were talking about it. Mm-hmm. I was very happy with it. And if you have a good group, that enjoy this type of intrigue. The theme, it's there, believe it or not, for the cards. In my opinion, it is. And you just sit there and enjoy a good afternoon of debating whether or not you think kids should go work in the coal mine.
Now, I will say this. People may be going, holy crap, is this going to cause problems at the table with different ideologies? No, it's not. Because even though one was called liberals and one called conservative parties, this was liberals and conservatives back in the early 1800s. The ideologies and stuff that they thought doesn't necessarily match up one-to-one. You know, if a bill was on one side back then, it may not be that same side today sort of deal. You're not going to end up in some sort of argument with your friends.
No.
It is historically interesting to read some of the stuff. There was a copyright bill. There was one about vaccinations, wasn't there? Wasn't there about... getting vaccinations for kids and stuff. So it's funny, a lot of the stuff that we thought, oh, that's modern stuff, they actually talked about back then too, which was really cool. So that is Prime Minister from GMT Games, from Paul Hellyer, plays 1 to 4 player. There's a whole solo rule for this game, but personally, the fun of this game is sitting around with 3 other people and playing, and that's the way I'll probably only want to play it from now on. Bonus content. We played this game again since we recorded the review, so I want to add a little epilogue. It was Tony and I, 2 brand new players who easily picked up on the game, and it's just one of those games that once you pick up on the mechanics and the actions and how they affect the state of the game, then it becomes a game of a lot of player actions, a lot of discussion. There was a lot of times we were standing up around the table debating whether bills should pass or not. You work with a person in your party trying to decide, hey, do we still work with the government? Do we want to break away? Is this a good time to do it? But we all know that there can only be one winner. And that's what happened in this stage of the game. I was part of the government. I was the backbencher. We got up to around 90 points. I resigned from the government, which means I was breaking standing with the current prime minister because I knew that the only way I could win was to possibly take over the prime minister's seat. So I was trying to increase my standing to be able to challenge him. And meanwhile, the opposition party realized they were kind of in a bad situation too and needed to take the government back over. So all of a sudden, what were once enemies were now allied to work together to take down the prime minister. The opposition had been campaigning for a while, knowing an election phase was coming up and they wanted to take the government back over so that one of them would be the prime minister. Everything just works so well together. It's elegant. There's a great flow to the game. And after playing so many games this year of a lot of resource management games and Euro games, a lot of those just become white noise to me. And it's rare that one just really stands out. Last year, the game that stood out to me was John Company. And this year, Prime Minister stands out to me. And even though the Squirrelies are a couple months away, I can almost guarantee that Prime Minister will be in the running for my game of the year for 2023. So recently we were talking about the Gametoppers 4.0 Kickstarter. Did you miss it? Okay, well guess what? It doesn't matter because right now you can go to the late pledge store and still get some great deals on bundles and some of the new products. As of right now, most items will be delivered by February 2024. However, a few of the items will be delivered April of 2024. But regardless, that means that's just right around the corner. So if it's like, dang it, I wish I'd had not missed out on the Kickstarter for those Gametoppers or the mats, etc., the accessories for Gametoppers, it's not too late. You can head over to GametoppersLLC.com, go to their shop page, and you're going to see a link right there for their late pledge store. So go over there, check it out for new mat styles, the new Young Sherlock children's movable coffee table, and all the other regular Gametoppers that he has in stock. Again, you can find out more over at GametoppersLLC.com.
As you know, rolling dice and taking names. We love card games. We love playing all types of card games. Matter of fact, that's what we cut our teeth on. We're talking Opashaw, Rook. That's right, Rook. We're down here in North Carolina. Rook's a big game that goes on. Hearts, Spades. You put a card game in front of us, we're excited. You want to build on that? You want to change some of the core mechanics of a card game? Hey, we'll take on that challenge. We'll try to understand it. And that's what we got with Ghost of Christmas from Tahiki Shinzawa from BoardGameTables.com.
Which is now called All Play.
Got that? Everybody got that? It's got the Christmas theme about it. It's got some ghosts, Charles Dickens thing happening right here. The object, of course, is to take tricks, to score points at the end of every hand and at the end of set number of rounds, depending on the number of players. Whoever has the most wins. And you are doing this by bidding on how many tricks you think you're going to take. And you must be exact unless you take a red door, which gives you a little leeway. You can take one more additional trick. You don't have to be exact.
But it's worth less points if you do that.
That's right. It's not worth 1 point per wreath. Worth 2 points per wreath. It's only worth 1 point per wreath.
Doors are used to determine at the beginning of the round
what your bid is.
I'm going to bid 3. I can either take 3 green doors or take a red door, whatever.
It's a cute way to show what your bids are instead of writing them on the table. That's it.
So it's a regular trick-taking game, but Tony, it's the twist that we read through the rule. You and I tried to simulate a 2-player game, and then we got it out again. And it's one of those games that's like, this does not make any sense until you play it, because as you play the game, the cards that you play that you have to play for playing a hand may not be the card colors that end up winning the trick.
Right. So the key to this is there is the past, present, and future areas in front of everybody. You have 3 slots that you can play your cards to. And someone says, hey, I am going to play a purple card to the past. That now sets the past as having to follow purple, the purple suit. You must do that if you have it. So same standard card rules. You must play that there if you have it. Next person goes. If he doesn't play to the past, he plays to the present or to the future. He can then set the suit that must be followed there. Hearts are always trump. If you can't follow suit, you can play hearts or you can play offsuit. If you play cards, you understand these concepts in playing cards of playing offsuit, things like that, or winning tricks. After all the eras have been filled by all the players.
Meaning everybody's going to play 3 cards.
Right, 3 cards.
And from a hand of 12. You dealt 12, and you're going to play 3 each round. 1 card to past, 1 card to present, 1 card to future.
Right. So you evaluate the past. If no one has hearts, then whoever played the color, the highest number of the color in the past, they win the trick. They take the start player or the hat and put it in front of them. Here's the twist. You know what color was set in the present, but the player who has the hat now sets the suit that is the highest suit below trump, which is hearts. So if there's no hearts and you say, green suit, the green suit for that, but now the guy who has hat is yellow, he gets it, not you, even though you match with what's present.
The highest yellow, if there's no other red, gets it. So you may have said that for the present, but guess what? It means butkus. It means nothing, and you have to, I'm sorry, Bob Cratchit, go home. Yeah. All right? If you really wanted it to be guaranteed to be green, then you should have won the past trick to set the color for the present to be green, to be the high suit.
All right. So whoever won that, now we move on. Then that color that they set, if it's not red, that is now the trick taking the suit that is below red as far as, what's the highest trump. And this is where you've got the strategy going on with this game.
We played around and we were all going, I don't understand the strategy. How do I know what to play where or play when? So we played 4 people. So we played 4 hands of 12 cards. Mm-hmm. So we did a lot of rounds. By the end, we were kind of figuring it out. It's like, I actually want to wait. My present slot is open and I see Tony's already played something there. Do I want to take this trick with the red card I had, or should I wait to see what other people play in the present? Mm-hmm. And if they've all played their present, then I know exactly whether I can win the trick or not. Or you're waiting and nobody plays when you want them to, so then you go ahead and do it, hoping, I'm going to play a blue 12.
Right.
And it's like, I think I've got this. But, look, over there, I didn't realize it. Mark's out of blue. He trumps it. Or he plays an offsuit color and wins the trick before it. to set the suit for winning that trick instead.
In the first round that you're playing, in the first hand, it's kind of straightforward. Unless people are missing certain suits, like that happened twice to me where I didn't have those suits, and that was interesting. They're like, "Why'd you play Trump? You don't have that color?" No, I don't. There's your card tactics coming in, or your card strategies that you're used to of maybe short suiting yourself or something like that.
And you 100% will count cards.
Oh, yeah.
Guarantee you are counting cards, y'all, as it goes through. You're keeping track of how many 12s have been played, how many blues or greens have been played. You're trying to keep track of all this so you can figure out what's best to. And here's the thing. Remember, when it comes to your turn, let's say the person to my right starts. That means one of the other two colors hadn't been set yet. Do I follow the color that he's already set, or do I set the color of one of the other two myself? And sometimes when you do that, you can have a little bit of advantage.
Yeah. For me, it reminds me of Opasha from the standpoint of having to get the exact bid. Mm-hmm. And I like some of the strategy, especially in later hands, and how you set your cards up as you're playing the various hands to finish out the round. I think one of those things that I really enjoy about cards is that's causing me to think further out with my cards. I like that.
And you for sure can totally set somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of say, well, Tony over there can't afford to take any more tricks. Boom. I'll play a card to make sure he's going to take this one. That sort of deal. So that sort of stuff that happens in hearts and spades and Opasha is totally in this game. The twist is you're literally playing 3 tricks per round, which is the odd thing. As opposed to 1 trick each round, it's 3 tricks every round.
That's right. And then, there's variants that you can play. Some where you don't have to worry about the bidding so much as getting it right. You get points for every trick you take, which personally, I understand that for, younger family members, but for your card players, you're not even going to look at that. You want that type. You want the challenge that the normal card game gives you.
Or you could ramp it up and throw in an extra beyond, past, present, future, and beyond. And then you're going to play 4 cards per round. So then there's 4 tricks you need to track every round.
For me, if you need another card game that you want to get out at Christmas, this is something that you may want to consider picking up. I enjoy almost all card games. And this one, I like the fact that you have a different mechanic in setting suits and what has the higher power below the trump. So for me, this is one that it would take a lot of explaining for my normal card players, but I think I could get them on board with this. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think if you just read the rules, people's eyes would glaze over. I don't see how this works. Get people to play a couple rounds, and then the light bulbs will start going off. For a 4-player game, it took 30 to 40 minutes. It's not a quick game because we're going to play, the more players, the longer it's going to take. But no, it's a very small box game from All Play. I've actually had this game for 2 years, Tony. And I just now pulled it out. So I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, good game. So if you can find it out there, go out to Miniature Market, see if it's there, or go out to All Play Games, see if you still got some. That is Ghost of Christmas.
It is the early 1300s in Timbuktu, Mali, and we are at the University of Sankoré, which is one of the 3 ancient centers of learning. Tony, we are teachers at this university as we try to bring students to our class. We teach them things such as theology, mathematics, astronomy, and law. And we send them out in the world to use that knowledge. We, in return, are getting prestige. And you and up to 4 people are sitting around trying to earn the most prestige as we play Sankoré from Osprey Games and designers Fabio Lapiano and Mandela Fernandez Grandin with art by Ian O'Toole.
So it took almost 11 years to get to a actually solid intro. I like that.
It's not bad. I was thinking about it. I was
you went through that? You were doing that. Okay. All right. So you shared something, Squirrel, on the Facebook. We started this in 2012.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Yeah, my math was working out there. See, I didn't teach math very well during this university when we were playing.
Oh, wait a minute. No, you excelled at astronomy.
Astronomy.
Astronomy is where you excelled.
I love my stars. I was putting those constellations together. Man, I was having fun. To go over the rules here, I'm going to be honest with you, Marty. I've been thinking about this game, and we are not. I am not going to let you go rule by rule because you can't. You can't.
Here's the thing. This was what, a 30-minute teach? Several of us read the rule books. Mark actually read a rule book. I was really impressed.
I know, and I did the opposite. I didn't, so I did the Mark. I took on the Mark role.
Oh, great. So it was probably a 30-minute teach, even with the board sitting in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot to try to figure out on how this game works, because wouldn't you say that this game almost consists of like 4 little mini games on each of the disciplines? There's an astronomy section of the board, a law section, a mathematics, and a theology, and each of them work a little bit differently.
But I would say there's actually 5 mini games because your own player board is a mini game in itself. As you're advancing your students, that also because you need to be able to advance your students and graduate them. So before we go too much into that, you got really just 2 actions you're doing on your turn. And it's all centering around getting these students onto your player board, which allow you to then bring them into your class to go do the actions on the main board, which allow you to get various positions that allow you to get prestige at the end of the game. And you have to tie all that together. And I'm not saying race with other people, but you need to compete with them to get the standings that you want. Because the mind-blowing thing for me in this whole game was how to get the in-game scoring. I didn't see how that would all come. I'll be honest. I completely backed into doing as well as I did. I had no clue, dude. No clue.
You didn't back into a victory. You played it well. You saw exactly what was going on. So you mentioned there's 2 actions. There's actually 2 of 5 things that you can do
2 actions on your turn. Yeah.
You do 2 actions on your turn. The most important one is basically teaching a class. Because when you teach a class, you're going to go out to the big board and do something. And each section of the board typically gives you something. You know, for example, we found out, I need salt to pay for things. If I go into the astronomy area of the board, which is moving your camel around in the Sahara Desert, trade is happening there, and we're trading for salt.
By spending gold.
Right. But okay, then you go, well, how do you get gold? Oh, well, that's when I go do mathematics, and there's a section of the board where if you can put a piece of a wall section there, each of these things you're putting places from your player board out into the main board, you're going to get gold. And it's like, we also need books for things. That's where you go to the theology section, and you can place mosques. When you do, you get a book from that area. And then there's a whole law area, which you can embellish each of your actions and make them more powerful so that when you take a certain action, you get some bonus actions also.
Which can either be using the gold, the salt, or even books.
To pay for to get those tiles, yes.
All comes down to is in order to teach, you have to have these students on your board that you're advancing up through the classes that match the main board. When we first put it out, and we'll talk about putting it out on the table. Woo! It was one of those things like, and you made this statement, and I followed your advice, was you can't do everything here. But there was a lot of planning ahead. And so, and there were a lot of things, I don't know, what mechanic is this? It's not really worker placement, but you're right. I mean, it was, I don't know what to say this is.
Well, there's a little bit of resource management, obviously, because you got to get the resources in order to be able to do certain things. I'm actually going to look at Board Game Geek and see how they classify it, see what terms that they use.
Because it was very interesting in how all the sub-games were all different ways of using your resources and what you needed to do.
It's a lot of mechanisms they list in here, because I guess they do list worker placement. I guess the worker placement is
placing your students in your classes.
Yeah, or the buildings that you put on the board allow you to do something at that section. They mention tech trees and tech tracks, which is true because for each of your disciplines of the 4 classes we talked about, each of those disciplines puts something on the board. So for example, like I mentioned, when you go to theology, you're putting one of your mosques on the board. Or when you go to the math section, you're putting a wall on the board. And as you put those on the board, you actually have better knowledge in that discipline, because when you want to go to a certain area of your board, you need to have an X amount of knowledge to go to certain areas. And as the game goes on, your students get smarter, allowing them to do some more advanced actions. So there's a student queue, and one of the actions on your turn is each one of the disciplines. You can go grab one of the students from that queue that are randomly placed at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
There's 4 different colors of students, each representing the disciplines. A student can go to any class, but one of the things you want to plan for is if one of the classes on your board, say, is theology, if you can have a theology student attend the class, there's a bonus that they get by doing that. So you actually want the same color student to attend the same color class for an extra bonus.
Right. So that action of taking a student off one of the 4 areas, that's a real simple one. It seems kind of like a waste, but you have to have it, and you have to think ahead of the colors in the classes that you're going to teach, because as you're moving them up, you can sacrifice getting that bonus just by attending that class, and that may seem like a waste of turn, but maybe it's building up to another class that you have sitting up in the tech tree, which you can get by turning in a book. You can pay a book to get in an advanced level class, and there's minimal spots because it's a pyramid in your player board. So let's talk about something I liked about the game.
Okay.
So whenever you're going to the main board, you're having to look at the strength of how many pieces you have out on the board. As you remove them, you get strength in that. Let's just use theology. Okay. So I've put a couple mosque out. My strength is now 2. Based on how many students have been removed to the queue, I add that strength to it, right?
From the theology queue.
From the theology queue.
Yes.
And so I'm sitting there, I'm removing that, and that allows me to place my mosque in the theology area. And I may have additional strength elsewhere that could be from the class or something. There's other ways to add additional strength to it.
Yeah. Typically, that's when, if you have a matching student in the class, lots of the advanced classes bonus on the strength, like a +2 on the strength.
So that's how you're getting the piece on the board, is looking at those strengths. So as you're playing and you're taking those students to help you do a teach in the next round, you are actually helping someone else because you're giving them more strength. I really liked how much planning had to go into that, even for a player's turn that may seem excessive. You really need to think about that because, hey, Marty's after me, and it looks like he's dealing in this track, but I really need the student of that color that's sitting in that queue. But if I take that, that's going to make his action a lot easier. And I like that. I enjoyed that about this game.
And lots of times the actions were dictated because of that. Let's say, for example, I needed salt and I wanted to travel in the astronomy area, but the strength of or the knowledge, we're saying strength, but in the book it's called knowledge. The knowledge amount of that student isn't high enough, but maybe you or somebody before me took one of the students from that queue, and all of a sudden, boom, between the knowledge that I got and now the bonus strength or the bonus knowledge that comes from that queue, I can now do this thing that I couldn't do before. And it's and like you said, you got to be conscious of that, because by you claiming a student from a queue, you're actually helping everybody sitting at the table, because that strength anybody can use.
Right. And so that was one thing.
Knowledge. Now you got me saying strength.
Well, it was knowledge. And yeah, that's where, you talk about theme, bringing the blur of the theme in, all that stuff. And to me, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't use strength. I should use the knowledge to stay within the theme of the game.
Well, it's somebody plays the game, they're not going to see the word strength. They're going to see the word knowledge. Yeah.
So I enjoyed that part about the game. Was there something about the game that you really liked?
I actually liked how each of the different areas were their own little things.
Okay.
I liked how in the astronomy, you're moving a camel along a path through the desert. I liked in law where you place a crown from your board in order to grab a little action tile that might be applied to maybe the astronomy discipline. So the next time I activate my astronomy action, not only do I get to take the regular astronomy action, any tiles I've placed there, I also get to activate, which may give you a little bonus. Like, for example, of moving your favor tile up on the track. We hadn't mentioned what a favor is, but one of the actions you can do is claim a favor. And as you move higher on the favor track, it allows you to take some additional bonuses. You could take anything below your favor marker and anything to the left of it. And the higher it goes, just the more options it give you. But when you take a favor, you're actually covering up a spot on your player board where you collect prestige. And that right there is what everybody wants, because at the end of the game, that prestige might, and I say might, be worth victory points because they may not be. Because in a second, we'll talk about how victory points are actually determined, which is one thing I actually really like about this game.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's just go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Because it kind of bled over me. It kind of just washed over me when we were talking about the end of the game and the scoring. Mm-hmm. So this prestige, at the end of the game, how do I know what prestige is important? What is determining that?
All right. So there's another little sideboard beside the main board. It's the library.
So how many boards are we up to now? We got a main board, 4-player. Each person has 2 boards in front of them. If you have 4 players, that's 8. See, I taught mathematics. Plus the main board, that's 9. Plus another board. So we're at 10 boards.
I'm glad you brought the big mat.
Yeah, and the Game Topper big mat was very beneficial. Thank you, Berkey.
It was. I'm like, do we really need the big one? Once we laid this bad boy out, we used every inch of that big one. I
mean, this was a table at Qdoba's where we're meeting now. It seats 10 people. We had that bad boy covered.
Yeah, we did. Y'all just see the looks we get at Qdoba when we're playing. And it is so hard, y'all, when somebody says, so what game is this? And we all look at each other. How do you explain this?
What's the easy? I mean, when we were doing Nucleum, it was real simple. You're controlling power and you're making nuclear power, yes. and people just moved on. This one is, you're teachers and you're doing these. No, we just gave up on it. We just said, yeah, just move along. You don't even bother.
Imagine Monopoly, but a lot harder, and then that tended to work. All right, so there's this board, this library board, and it has 3 rows on it. I mentioned one of the resources is books. The 3 main resources in this game are books, salt, and gold. When you spend a book for an action, and several places on the board require the spending of a book, you can put it on any one of the 3 rows in the library. So at the end of the game, what you're going to do is you're going to look at each row of the library, and whichever color book is the majority in that row is going to make the prestige of the same color, the prestige token, worth 2 points. The second most in that row is going to make the prestige token of that color only 1 point. Every row is going to be evaluated that way. So there are 4 main colors. If, for example, and this kind of happened to Bert, and you mentioned this, Tony, Bert was collecting a lot of prestige tokens throughout the game. Mm-hmm. You said, we just got to make sure that orange doesn't have a majority in any row, and that hurts his scoring, which is what happened. He only got maybe it was a 1 point per prestige because I think orange came in 3rd in the 3rd row of the library. But you, my friend, who was over there collecting blue prestige, over the course of the game, you kept putting out blue books and was able to get a majority in 1 row so that every one of your prestige was worth 2. And I think in another one, it was either worth 2 or worth 1. So those blue tokens the astronomy tokens were worth a lot of points.
Right. You're having to watch this 10th board and you're having to see which books people are putting there, which may drive your decision on how to get those prestige. Yeah, it's not only prestige on the main board, but there's also prestige for when you graduate a student, when you graduate a student from a various level, you may take that color that you're graduating and place that. That's worth prestige. There may be other prestige tokens out there that happen. So prestige is coming from everywhere. So you got to watch that. So you're watching not only that is, okay, how can I put certain books out to swing the prestige? That's one of the things you got to deal with. All right. And the other thing that's very interesting from the prestige is how do you collect the prestige on the main board? Now, that's at the end of after a student has been taken, all the students in a queue have been taken. You do this majority thing the second time, or the first time you get these books that you can store and that you use later to, like we said, buy things. And then the second time you get prestige by looking at majority.
So that adds in another element of this game, area majority. Every one of the 4 sections of the board, law, theology, astronomy, and math, is broken up into sub-4 sections, A, B, C, and D. And when a student is pulled off a queue of one of the areas of discipline, it may trigger a scoring or a majority scoring at that point. The first one you said is books. So let's say it's math. You look in the math section. A, B, C, and D. Whoever has the most colors of their pieces in each area gets the random book that was assigned there at the beginning of the game. And then when the queue's empty, that's going to trigger the prestige majority. So you evaluate A, B, C, and D again, and whoever player color is the most to each area, they get the prestige that was put there at the beginning of the game. One thing I think that's really unique to Tony is you notice there's no victory point track on any of these 10 boards because you don't collect any victory points mid-game. It is strictly at the very end of the game, and you calculate victory points pretty darn quick. It literally is assigning values to each of the colors based on the majorities in the library. Do some quick multiplication of your pieces, and the scoring is done. So scoring is quick and easy, which I like.
Yes, I like that too. That was one of the things that I wasn't really grasping. I really looked into this, but it was the books and then the area, and I found it where something you need to look out for, because that's how you compete against people is, hey, wait, Marty is really in this one town over in theology, but Tony's the only one in this other town. I need to take advantage of that by teaching and going to that town so that
You're saying town. What do you mean town?
Well, cities. There were in the theology, it was based on cities, wasn't it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Whew. Yeah, because the astronomy is a map and there's different locations in the theology.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go into that about the board. So astrology was regions, A, B, C, and D. Theology was towns, A, B, C, or D. Math was wall sections, A, B, C, or D. Law was
disciplines.
Discipline.
A, B, C, and D.
Yep. Yeah, it was the 4 disciplines that you're already using. Exactly. So, let's explain these rules after we get all that.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So you see, this is a pretty heavy game. This is a game that will take a little bit of time to get into. The box says 2 to 3 hours. We finished the first play of this that we did was 2 hours and 45 minutes, which I didn't think was too bad.
No.
Which means in the next play, it's going to 2:15 or something like that. So it's once you get the flow, is there any AP? Possibly, because I did find that sometimes somebody will take a action that really screws you up. Let's say I had planned to go to one of those little towns out on the mosque, one of the mosque towns. And Bert, who was right before me, did it. Ah, crap. Now I got to kind of rethink my turn. So there could be a little downtime if somebody thwarts what you had planned to do.
Drat you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you talked about planning ahead. That was the tough part for me because some of the areas on the board required to have 2 students below a class tile. It's called supported. That's what the term is. And so you had to work to move a student up this little tree, the pyramid that you referred to earlier. There's introductory classes, level 1, level 2, level 3. And some of the higher advanced actions on the board require to have 2 students below that class tile before you activate it. So you kind of have to work a student up. Now, there are things that you can do to move a student up or horizontal by taking a favor, or there's special abilities that you can get to shift students around on your tech tree board.
So once again, you may say, well, I really need to do support, so I'm going to move this student over, even though I'm going to give up having the capability of getting the bonus from that tile by it not matching.
Yep.
To your point, once again, you said don't try to concentrate in them all, and I didn't. I concentrated on theology, and I also did the exploring, and those were the only 2 classes that I really wanted to teach. I had math, only 1 math tile, and I think that helped.
I have a question. So how did you get gold? Because gold was kind of the thing that you got from doing the math stuff.
I had 1 math tile at the very bottom, and I brought everybody up through it.
Look at you. See, you did think about this.
I knew that if I only needed gold to go through there. And then I also have, guess what, y'all? You get 4 objective cards at the beginning of the game that can help drive you. So that helped reduce some of my need for gold. And when did you need gold? When you needed salt.
Yep.
For
when
the
did
theology.
You need salt?
For theology.
Yeah.
Which, on this board, there is a circle that shows how you get these resources that we kept referring to. Brilliant, Osprey. Brilliant having that on there.
Yeah, it's almost like, imagine like a rock, paper, scissors type circle. It says, this gives you this gives you this gives you this sort of deal. And it points to the areas of the board you need to go. Really useful at the beginning of the game.
And you also have a wild card resource, which is a candle.
It's an inspiration token. You can spend it in order to take a little extra action, a bonus action.
I thought the symbol on it was a candle.
It is. It's an inspiration token. It's called an inspiration token.
I understand what it's
candle.
called. It's a candle. How is a candle inspirational?
I don't know. I'm looking at a picture of it right now. It's a candle on a little disc. It's called an inspiration token.
Yeah, you spend that, which gives you the ability to move your pupils around or get a book, which, and resources, you just can't collect them. They are limited on your player board, so keep that in mind. So I think overall, this game, and I'm going to wrap it up for me, there were a lot of things I liked about it. There was a lot of interesting things. A few things I did not like. Number one was the AP on players' turn, because we had a lot of sidebar conversations going on. You really you could plan a little bit as long as someone didn't really mesh up your plans too much. But I found that there was a lot of downtime in player turns. And I think the more plays you get to this, the quicker it will go. But I think you will then sacrifice some of the strategy behind it. And I think there's a teeter-totter, a balance, a scale. Like that's on the board, a scale of time versus actions. You don't want to rush through too much of it. But some of your turns were very quick, because I'm going to take a student, and with that student, I'm going to go teach a class. Okay, those were the two main actions you were doing here. Okay, mm-hmm. So that was one of the things I disliked. Before we get to our big dislike, what was one of the things you disliked?
I think this game is brilliantly designed.
Amazing. Yeah.
I can't understand how somebody sits and designs all these things that work so well together. But for me, it's almost a little too much. I handled it and I was enjoying it and stuff like that. But I almost wish the complexity was dropped just a teeny bit, because there is so many interlocking parts. And I think it's one of those brilliant puzzles that you just play over and over again to try to solve. And I just don't know, because of the length of the time of play and everything like that I'll ever get to that point to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Because you have other games in your collection that you would put out on the table. Now, I did one thing that was said that, on the recall of being able to play this game, I would almost not argue, but I would say, remembering how to play this game, once you give me that player card that's the sign of a Post-it note, I could remember that. It was real simple. What the actions that I could take, it's putting it all back together for strategy. I would see what I needed to do, but how's my strategy going to be? So that I think is the challenge. Now, for the big takeaway.
The setup, y'all, 30-minute setup, something like that. And I came, everything was punched, everything was sorted and prepared to go. The thing is, though, there are so many things placed on the board and everything's placed randomly, so you can't have it pre-done. There is a cloth bag that comes with the game. Typically.
Okay, hold on. Keep going. Go ahead. Go with the cloth bag. It's just making me giggle.
I was going to say, typically when you need a cloth bag, the purpose of it is because you're putting stuff into a bag and drawing from it during the game. This cloth bag is strictly used for setup. And it's used like 4 or 5 times.
I appreciated them including that.
I really do appreciate it included. But literally, it was like, okay, put all the books into the cloth bag, randomly draw some out, seed the board, take the rest of the books, do this with them. Okay, empty the bag, put them over here. Okay, now take all the prestige tokens, put them in a bag, seed the board with those, take out the remaining prestige tokens, do something with them. Okay, now put this into the bag, pull this, and we're doing that over and over. And it's a big board, and there's a lot of little pieces that've got to go on the board before you can even start playing the game. Not even including your own player board, where you have to stack all these 4 different types of pieces all over the place of the board so that you can pull them off the board as you play the game.
And I think we could get set up down to maybe 20 minutes. Because we could divide it up, because we had to go find the places on the board. So our 30 to 45 minutes was, okay, where is this? Where is this located? But I think if you get it to the table a lot, somebody could be pulling real fast and someone could be placing real fast. So I think you could get it down to like 15, 20 minutes. It was a fun exercise getting this thing set up.
There's 32 steps for the setup, if that helps.
It's a process. Let's just be honest. It is a process, and they detail it out. And it's do this, do this, do that, and once you find it all.
Yep.
So that may keep it off the table. Hey, we got 2 hours to play a game. Well, let's put this, there's 20 minutes of setup, 20 to 30 minutes. So now we don't have time for it. Oh, okay. Well, then throw this on here. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, this is one of those games that falls in a weird spot for me. If somebody says, Marty, do you want to play Sankoré? I've already got it set up and ready to go. I'm going to sit down and go, yes, but now I need a quick refresher because I've forgotten everything. But once I get to the refresher, I would do it. What is going to be hard for us with our player group and our situation for each week is for me to bring this out and put it and say we're going to play it. The reason why we got to play it on game night, Tony, is because one of our players, Mark, was off work that day and we were all able to get there an hour earlier, which means we could get this game to the table. On typical game nights, we would not have time for this game.
Yes.
When it comes to setup, play, put away.
But overall, if you enjoy a very strategic, I won't say incredibly heavy, but it's definitely more than medium.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. We just covered Nucleum recently. Which do you consider heavier?
This one.
Okay, I agree. Me too.
I think there's more strategy to it. I mean, Nucleum's pretty intense, but this one, the tracking of the various people, making sure you've got the right prestige going based on how the books are going out and being able to swing that to your favor. There is a lot of steps ahead. Now, in Nucleum, we said you had to do a lot of planning ahead as well. Same things going on here, but I think Nucleum is lighter than this.
I also agree. Now, I'm a big fan of this designer. He did Kalimala, which I really, really like.
I enjoyed that one.
I'm glad to see a reprint of that's coming out from Alleycat Games. I think it's going to look great. Ragusa that he did was my game of the year. I know you were not a fan of that one, but I really like that one. And we played Merv. He also did Merv that was also from Osprey Games that we played a couple years ago too. So this is probably the heaviest of those four, I would think.
Right. And I mean, as far as Osprey Games, so you know the production's there.
And Ian O'Toole design and art, it just looks incredible on the table. So production is top notch. This game, I think, is MSRP in the $90 range.
It's worth it.
Well, that's high. But I did see on Miniature Market, it could be pre-ordered for $63.
Jump on it, people, if
That's
this
a good deal.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. But remember, if you're going to play this game, what do you think? Would 3 be as fun? Would you play with 3?
Personally, no. I don't think it is because I think the competition for the majority would kind of shift. I don't know what you change in 3 from 4 to 3 on the boards. I know you have more spaces for prestige that can go on your player board.
It looks like in the 2 and 3 player games, there are different student cue tiles that are put on the board. So it's probably less students that are put out to trigger the majority scoring.
I think it would work, but I think 4 was more just from the banter that was going on and the competition and the race to get to certain areas.
So no, I enjoy my time with it. It's one of those that the more I thought about it, the more I really appreciate how well it's designed. But you just got to decide it's for you. Is this 4-player game that's going to take a little bit of setup and definitely a good teach. Hopefully, if all y'all can read the rule book, that'll really help get it along. But it's going to be a personal preference, I really think.
I think so too. But it's if you enjoy the Osprey style games like this or the designer, definitely give this a look.
This is Sankoré from Osprey Games, coming out soon. Tony, did you see the message on our Discord channel about how an email went out from Miniature Market saying, hey, because you're on our email list, you get these special deals? Some of those were really, really, really good.
Yes, they were. And I got that too. But I mean, hey, you're a part of our secret group. Yeah, right. I'll take it with a grain of salt. But I did see where Catherine was on sale for $10, a game that you and I both did like.
Yes, a $40 game on sale for just $10. I actually saw too, this wasn't a sale or anything, but they finally have Lorcana booster boxes back in, like the most recent expansion, Rise of the Floodborn. The price is $155, which is now honestly right in line with what you can get those booster boxes for. So that's not, elevator or anything like that. But I just think it's really cool. Every once in a while, they'll just drop an email. Hey, click on this link and you can go out here and see some special deals going on, which is why you want to make sure to get on their email list. And you could do that at miniaturemarket.com. But we also have, don't forget, we have our affiliate link, which you'll find on our website and in the link to all the show notes. If you ever click on the Miniature Market link, it is our affiliate link so that they can know, hey, you got this from RDTN. Thanks for visiting. But the holidays may be over. Maybe you didn't get what you want. And if you didn't, go see if they have it over at miniaturemarket.com. All right, you play any video games over the holidays? You had a little bit of a break. You didn't get any new board games to play, so did you play any new video games or anything?
I started that fantasy what is it? Final Fantasy 16 you let me borrow. Started that. Haven't cranked it back up in a while because all the people in the house.
Weeks ago you started it. You haven't moved beyond the prologue?
No, I'll get there. I'll get up to the video game room and play. I mean, it's real simple, like I said, to always walk in on the computer and play something for 10 minutes and then go about my normal business. The PlayStation requires me to go upstairs, sit down with the controller, turn it all on, load up the game, hit the play button. Oh crap, that controller's, got to get it charged, all that good stuff. I mean, I even have my Switch sitting here next to my computer and all I got to do is hit a button and I can swap over to the Switch. Don't even do that. I just don't know why that is. What about you? I know you played something.
So I've been playing a little bit. So I finished up Super Mario RPG and trying to decide what I want to get to next. I know I'm very interested in Sea of Stars, which is an RPG that a lot of people really enjoyed. It's about a 30 to 40 hour game. I kind of want to decide if I want to play something shorter. I did on Steam check out a game called Against the Storm, which is a city building game like Sim City, except that it's roguelike. So it's a fantasy-based Sim City style game, but eventually you'll lose as you try to build out your city as fast as you can. But as you play, the longer you play, you unlock things. So the next time you make a run, you have more access or better abilities to make your run longer every time. So it's a really cool twist on a city building type game. It was on sale on Steam for dirt cheap, and I've just been enjoying kind of cranking up and playing it. So if you like city building games, Against the Storm is out right now. It's really good.
Did you download any of the Epic or definitely get them for free? Like the Fallout series? I did that one.
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. I should have, but I did not. And there's a big eShop sale going on right now, and there's 2 games I'm probably going to get. One is Dredge, which everybody's been talking about, a fishing game. I don't understand how it's so great, but it's like a 12-hour fishing game that everybody just loves. I think it was nominated for like Independent Game of the Year or something like that. That and Tokyo Phantom, Ghost Phantom. Oh, what is it? Ghost Trick crap. It's a Capcom game of a Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. It came out on the DS, which is like a detective style game, also a short game, and it's on sale also on the eShop. So I'm probably going to pick up one of both of those and play one of those real quick.
Okay, because I hadn't cranked up Epic, and then son-in-law steps in and says, "Hey man, you really need to. Fallout 3 is on Epic for free." So I cranked up Epic. So I'm like, man, I didn't realize how many games I have on Epic. That I've gotten over free, like Tomb Raider, Fallout 3, Fallout 2, Lego's Builder's Journey, The Outer Worlds, and then they had another one. I'm kind of interested. Have you ever played the Human Resource Machine?
I have not.
Okay, it's some type of puzzling game where you're responsible for the workers to complete tasks. I think I probably will crank that one up because it just looks like one of those quick puzzle solver things. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah. But other than that, nope, didn't do a lot, man.
I do want to make another shout out. So we know we talked about our gaming chairs that we really enjoy, eWin racing chairs. Tony and I have a couple of chairs. We love them. Some people on our Discord channel got them as gifts.
Oh, they did.
For the kids over Christmas. So hopefully they really enjoy those. But over the holidays, my son and his wife were here, and we were watching Elf or movies, stuff like that. We didn't have enough chairs for everybody to sit around because they brought a dog. We had a dog, and the dog's like sitting on the regardless. Anyway, so I rolled in my gaming chair from the office into the main area, and Vanessa sat in it. She was like, "This chair's amazing." I went, "Yes, it is." She said, "It's so comfortable." I went, "Yes, it is." That's how I could sit in my office for hours playing games and recording and stuff like that because I never get tired of sitting here. So she fell in love with the chair. So I thought that was kind of funny.
That is kind of funny. And I noticed they've branched out too. My wife was talking to me about the Aldi's ad or local, everybody's probably got an Aldi's in there and they've got all that health stuff. She goes, "Look, there's a massage gun. For $40-some on Aldi's." And I go, "Yeah, you'll probably use it a couple of times, but that's about it. Just saying." But I noticed they got one of those too. So if you're over at eWin, you could get you a massage gun, one of those massagers that can sit there and really dig into the muscles, relax them a little bit, then climb into that cushy chair and just take you a good old nap.
You know what they need is the massager built into the chair.
You just wait for 2024. I bet.
That would be amazing. A chair with a built-in massager. It would sell like hotcakes.
I think they need a little, like a heater during the winter or maybe a little fan blowing.
Who knows? That may be coming too. Look, if you never checked them out, you can go into ewinracing.com. Click on the link in our show notes here for our affiliate link to go over there. And if you're ever interested in a chair, you can always get 30% off. Yes, that's right. 30% off any of their chairs using code RDTN. It's the maximum discount code they give. I've seen other people post their codes giving 25%, etc., but we are at 30%. Use our code. If there's one on sale, you get the sale price, throw in our code, you're going to get 30% off that. So it's a great deal. ewinracing.com, desk, chairs, and now massagers.
And with that, we're going to say keep rolling dice
and taking names. Hey y'all, thanks for listening. If you want to support the show, you can do so by heading over to buymeamoonpie.com. We'd appreciate your one-time donation or continuing donation to help support the show in 2024. Follow us on social media at Dyson Names. Join our Discord channel and make sure to check out our website for affiliate links for all of our sponsors.
Marty, for this new year, let's make a resolution. Lord. Is it resolution?
Yeah, New Year's resolution, yes.
Okay.
Well, not to make mistakes anymore while we're recording a podcast?
That'll never happen.
That ain't going to happen.